I want to recognize South Africa's leadership in vaccine and pharmaceutical manufacturing. Some of your companies are already in Nairobi. I remember discussing this with your new ambassador to Nairobi yesterday. And we will be working together towards creating an ecosystem that does not make Africa vulnerable as we saw during the COVID time. We have to build our own capacity in this continent of pharmaceutical manufacturing, including vaccine manufacturing, so that we can deal with whatever pandemics come our way, and we can also take charge of our health requirements as a continent. In fact, I remember yesterday your ambassador mentioning about Aspen and the kind of investment they want to make in Nairobi and the footprint they are already establishing in Kenya. And I did commit that Kenya is going to support, find necessary partnerships that will support that manufacture. Mr. President, you and me discussed the whole subject about migration and the need for us to provide opportunities in our continent. I think part of the challenge South Africa is facing because it's a much more developed country, and therefore it's easier for people to come here to look for services, to look for opportunity. The answer to this is to make sure that services and opportunities exist everywhere in our continent to avoid some of the challenges that we are facing. And therefore, as a champion as I spearhead the reform of the AU and its structures to make it fit for purpose and to better articulate the position of our continent on matters of investment, on matters of access to resources for our development. Mr. President, thank you very much for extending an invitation to me to undertake this state visit. Building on your own visit to Kenya in 2022, and to commend you, Mr. President, for taking very bold steps when we met in 2022 to unlock some of the outstanding issues that have been there before and for a long time. And today we celebrate some of the achievements of your visit to Kenya. I remember visiting this great country when I came to address the Pan-African Parliament, and the experience that I have witnessed since yesterday. As you've said, Mr. President, we are in a very uncertain geopolitical position. There is economic disruption in many parts. We have weakening multilateralism. And this has continued to exert pressure on our developing economies. This calls on us to explore deeper engagement between our countries. And as you have said, Mr. President, South Africa and Kenya are large economies in our region, and there is room, depth and width for us to explore in making our economies integrate more so that we can exert benefits for the people of South Africa and the people of Kenya. Mr. President, your automobile industry is a big sector. and my Minister for Trade here will be looking for opportunities on how automobile companies in South Africa can work with their counterparts in Kenya, even on some of the spare parts that can be manufactured out of Kenya. Today, we know that there are many spare parts for the automobile industry coming from different parts of the world. It is our belief that those different parts of the world should include Kenya. And some of your automobile companies should find in our special economic zones, in our export promotion zones in Kenya, a space for them to manufacture, especially for the Kenyan and the East African market out of Kenya. And we will be having that conversation. I'm very happy that we will be attending later the business forum, and that there is a commitment by the private sector in Kenya and the business community here in South Africa to form a joint business council, which can provide a platform for discussions on investment, on trade, on building synergy, on joint ventures, private-public partnerships, and other avenues that can leverage on the opportunities that we have both in Kenya and in South Africa. And allow me at this point, Mr. President, to commend you and South Africa on your leadership of the G20. It was a moment that this continent presented what we believed were continental priorities. And even though there were challenges of multilateralism, but South Africa stood firm and articulated the position, the collective position of our continent, our priorities, the reform of the UN system, the reform of the international financial architecture, the industrialization of our continent, and the need for our continent to play its rightful role in the discourse that is going on globally. And I want to commend you, Mr. President, and South Africa for projecting the African position in the best way that it could have been done. We just finished the Africa Forward Summit in Nairobi a couple of weeks ago, and we will be carrying the same message to the G7 as the African position as was fashioned at the G20. We will be presenting that as well to the G7 so that the African position becomes unequivocal, clear, and in a manner that projects the best interest of our continent. Your Excellency, when we made the decision on your visit to Nairobi to ease the travel between our two countries, it may have looked like it was a small decision, but today you can see, Mr. President, it has created a very big buzz between our two countries. As you have said correctly, it has given us an opportunity for people-to-people movement. When I was asking you for this arrangement, I didn't know that it would benefit South Africa more than Kenya. Today, there are more Kenyans traveling to South Africa and spending our money in South Africa than there are South Africans coming to Kenya. But the positive side is that in the process, there are more South African companies investing in Kenya and working with us in through private-public partnerships and business and enterprise. And so the decision we made, Mr. President, was, in my estimation, mutually beneficial. It has enhanced the people-to-people relationship. It has built a bigger ecosystem of business and entrepreneurs between our two countries, and has created more investment opportunities for our two people. Trade between our two countries has been growing. We have more imports from South Africa than we have exports from Kenya. But on the flip side, we have more investments from South Africa into Kenya, more than investments coming from Kenya to South Africa. That presents to us a dichotomy that can be explored on what can be done to leverage on the complementarity of our two economies. The JCC remains the principal mechanism for structured dialogue and expanding this and advancing this bilateral cooperation. And I want to recall that in Nairobi in 2021, the first JCC was undertaken in Nairobi. It was reviewed in 2022. And again, as you have said, Mr. President, in June this year, on the 23rd, we will be looking at another possibility to hold another second session of JCC. And I want to affirm Kenya's readiness to participate fully and constructively to further our collective interest. The leadership of South Africa on matters to do with peace and security in our region. I want to commend you as we undertook the process in South Sudan. South Africa played a major role. As we have, as it is now in the Sudan, we are all engaged. And South Africa, as a member of the P5, has provided immense guidance. And I want to confirm that we are working jointly on matters peace and security in our continent. And Kenya will continue to play our rightful role in making sure that we contribute to the peace and stability in our region, whether it is in the DRC, Congo, in Somalia, or in the Sudans. And I want to reaffirm Kenya's commitment to working closely with South Africa in advancing reforms at the AU on matters to do with peace and security, and also on global governance. I appreciate the ongoing consultation towards elevating our bilateral relations into a strategic partnership framework. And against that background, the conclusion of the additional agreements in trade facilitation, maritime cooperation, gender equality, and women empowerment on our technical, vocational, and training centers in arts, culture, and sports are an important milestone for the visit that I am undertaking today, because these agreements will add momentum and value as we sign them today, and their effective implementation will grant the people of our two countries tangible benefits for our citizens. We are aware that there are still some tariff and non-tariff barriers that constrain trade between our two countries. And this visit provides us, Mr. President, with an opportunity to explore some of those areas so that we can straighten them and make it much more easier and less restrictive for our business people to do what they do best, to trade and to connect people to goods and services.
You and I also took time to deal with the challenges that we as South Africa are facing with regard to migration. And we dealt with that, and we sought to understand the causes of migration and how best all countries on the continent can work together to address this challenge of migration, because it is not only unique to South Africa. And I explained that South Africans are not xenophobic. South Africans are Africans. They want to live with other Africans peacefully, and our people are calling on us as leaders to resolve the many challenges that are brought to bear by the challenge of migration. And I did say that as South Africa we are addressing this matter, and I was rather pleased that you had good understanding on this issue as well. So working together, South Africa and Kenya can help shape a peaceful, integrated and thriving African continent that is always able to resolve its own problems under the slogan, African solutions for African problems. This reciprocal state visit is a celebration of the friendship as well as the solidarity that binds our two nations. Ours is a relationship that is rooted in shared values, mutual respect, and a common vision for democracy, for peace on our continent, and for prosperity for all our sister countries on the African continent. This visit builds on my state visit to Kenya in November in 2022, where you so warmly welcomed me and my delegation. But it also builds on the many engagements that we have had through our Joint Commission for Cooperation. It reflects the growing strength of our ties and the determination of our two nations to work together for the benefit of our people collectively. South Africa and Kenya are leading economies in our region. As such, our partnership carries significance not only to our citizens of Kenya and South Africa, but for the broader African project of integration, industrialization, and inclusive growth. I welcome the successful convening of the 7th of the South Africa-Kenya Joint Trade Committee, which was held in Pretoria in April. These discussions reaffirmed our shared commitment to building a balanced and mutually beneficial trade relationship between our two countries under the African Continental Free Trade Area.